Look, I get it. We all knee deep in summertime shy right now, but hey, winter is coming. I'm talking about the cold, the wind, the frost, the polar vortex. And you definitely want to make sure the windows on your crib hold up. That's where Window Nation comes in. This month, get 50% off all window styles. Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all their windows, so you can relax knowing your home is protected far into the future. Schedule a fast, free estimate now with Window Nation. Call 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. You remember that amazing little cafe you discovered last summer or that perfect hiking spot you heard about? Well, with the Overlook mobile app, you can create personal lists of places you've been, want to go, and always see everything on a map. Share your favorite hidden gems with friends and family. Or, keep your secret spots private for you. The best part, no ads cluttering your list and no one selling your interests or travel data. All you got to do is download the free app at overlookmaps.com and check out overlookmaps.com/Chicago to see some of our personal favorite CityCast lists on a map and in your pocket. Overlookmaps.com. Collect and share the places that matter to you. Today on CityCast Chicago, the clock is running out for Chicago public schools to solve their $734 million problem. Investment in Chicago's Pullman community is seeing real returns, and we are back at that time of the year where my Monday mood is partly decided by the Bears on Sunday. It's Friday, August 8th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I'm joined in the building by Axios reporter and former CityCast Chicago executive producer, Carrie Shepard. Carrie, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Jacoby. Good to be here.
It's always a little confusing welcoming you back because I want to say welcome back to the thing you helped build, my G. It feels like a very long introduction.
I never left.
We've also got the Tribe's Corley J in the building joining us for at least your 13th time. Corley, you have been joining us for the better part of 3 years, and we appreciate you always making time.
Thank you for having me, Jacoby. Always happy to be here.
By the end of this, you may hate me because of that, because that also means I have a record of your Bears thoughts for the last 3 years. I have every one of your season predictions, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we ain't going to start there. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. My only question for you is, where the hell you been? As I just said, we've been here 4 years. I think over 1,100 episodes as of the last couple of weeks. And we are talking about all things Chicago. And when I say that, I mean all things Chicago. As you'll even see from today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Chicago public schools. We're going to talk about development on the far south side. We're going to talk about safety net hospitals on the far north side and everything in between. But if you are new, go back through our episodes across maybe even just this week, and you'll get a better sense of some of the things we do here on the podcast. On Monday, we talked about Chicago's credit rating. On Tuesday, we talked about Illinois and Chicago's oldest politician finally retiring. We talked farm to table restaurants. And then yesterday, we ran it back with part 2 of our essential rules or unwritten rules for living in Chicago. And that's what we're going to start today. Carrie, is there a unwritten rule for life in Chicago that you either love, you tell people who are moving here, or you absolutely hate and you do not observe it yourself?
I love the unwritten rules of if someone is running for the bus, flag down the bus for the person, realize and remember that person's trying to get to work, trying to get wherever they need to be. If somebody's running up to the platform, or the L, go ahead and draw your arm. I mean, don't get your arm knocked out or, chopped off, but put your arm in the doorway to keep it open for them. One I hate is ironically sort of rules about you can't put ketchup on your hot dog and you can't, nobody eats deep dish and nobody does this. And because every time everybody drinks Malort, I mean, that's not true. First of all, those change with generation. They change from what part of the city you grew up in. They change for lots of things, like when we were coming up, we didn't ever drink Malort. So I feel like that's a little bit of a younger generational thing. So I think making up rules like that to sort of make people feel like outsiders is very un-Chicago, because that's just not the ethos of Chicago. We are all about welcoming.
Corley, over to you. Is there a unwritten rule, an essential rule to life in Chicago that you want to share, that you hate? You could do one of both.
I don't know if this is the citywide thing, a personal thing, but personally, I hate when people complain about the heat in the summer. Like, we only
Yes.
have a small amount of time to enjoy this. Like, summertime shy is the best thing in the world. So stop it with the complaining. Like, give people tips to go to these cooling centers, tell people to stay hydrated, don't forget to turn on your air, and giving people reminders, especially old folks, But complaining about the heat in the summer is something I cannot stand. Like, I cannot stand it, because we've been in the cold so much. It's like I forget what summer feels like sometimes, because our winters are so long. So please don't come around me complaining about the heat.
And if you're going to do it, keep it to yourself. Because, like, I don't know, lie. The humidity been whooping my ass a couple of days, but I keep it to myself. Every single week, we bring in our friends, our colleagues, to look back on some of the biggest stories happening in our city. And we have covered Chicago Public Schools' $730 million budget deficit pretty closely in recent weeks, because the district has, according to state law, pretty much until the 13th of August to release a proposal for all of us to see, and for the hybrid elected school board to pass by the end of the month. Our friend over at Chalk Chicago, who recently joined us on the podcast, Rima Amin, in addition to covering the latest round of layoffs that took place this week that impacted a lot of custodians, Rima wrote a story breaking down a few ways CPS may look to close this massive gap. Carrie, let's jump into that reporting. What are some of the suggestions on the table?
Well, not great ones. And this is no fault of the district necessarily, but there's just not enough money to go around. I mean, without getting too off course here, there's these two big looming fiscal cliffs and crises that a lot of leaders are trying to sort of put at the feet of the state and legislators, which is like, we have this, nearly $800 million fiscal cliff with transit, which is going to affect everybody in terms of the CTA, the Metro, PACE, etc. But then, as you noted, we have this almost identical price tag, $734 million hole that CPS is facing. And in both situations, the Governor Pritzker, does not seem to have too much of a will to say, hey, we'll help. The state's going to come through for you on that, because the state doesn't have the money to come through on that.
CPS has been asking for over $1 billion in sort of state education formula funding for years now, and
Correct.
has not seen that windfall of cash, and is not going to see that windfall of money.
Right. So the options boil down to find more money, which in this case, they could borrow it, which was proposed before, that they would take on more debt and borrow it. This was a source of contention between the former CPS CEO, Pedro Martinez, who is now moved on, gone out east, and and Mayor Brandon Johnson, who had this idea. And Martinez said, no, we're not going to take on more debt. We're not going to do that. We're not going to borrow more. And the other is to make cuts, which, that is not going to bode well for the teachers union and other unions that represent CPS staffers and workers. You could ask, another option might be to ask for furloughs. That is also going to upset the unions and employees.
It looks like the biggest option for maybe bringing in additional revenue is declaring more TIF surplus. But the way Rima sort of sets that up, while it does have some support amongst board members, unions, previous CPS administrators, this would ultimately be a short-term plan, and you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly.
When it comes to TIF surplus.
Yes, exactly. And other ideas, of course, that are, it's maybe raise the corporate income tax. That's going to upset businesses.
Right. We tried to have a graduated tax, but that ultimately failed because that would have to go through state lawmakers, a change to the state constitution, and voters didn't really show they had an appetite for that.
Voters
I mean, a
weren't
lot
into
of people
that.
were. A lot of voters were, just not the majority needed to pass it.
Yeah, a progressive tax is a tough. Yeah, it's even in a quote unquote blue city, but that's not a. Let's not forget. Yeah, the entire state has to vote on stuff like this, and there's a lot of big businesses and wealthy people in Chicago that don't want to go for that. Which is another thing is property taxes. That is never politically viable. Brandon Johnson is in the middle of his tenure right now, and it's not too early, let's be honest, that people are already talking about who's going to come up against Brandon Johnson in 2027. And if he raises property taxes when property taxes are already so high, people are already frustrated with the system. Currently, our second installment of property taxes have been delayed because of some sort of technical problem at some tech issue at the assessor's office. So, and that's more of a county issue, but people are going to pin that on Brandon Johnson, and there's just no way he could win a second term. There's several reasons he's up against it on winning a second term, but that would be one that every one of his opponents is going to throw in his face, is to raise property taxes.
Which is unfortunate because it is the city's number one lever. It's the fastest lever that they can turn or utilize to raise revenue. And Johnson's administration floated it during last year's budget season, and that got ripped apart.
And another big issue that, and I don't know if you saw, the Trib had an editorial this week of put CPS back and can give the state control again. So that is, without going too deep into a history lesson here, the state obviously used to oversee CPS. Mayor Richard M. Daley, the powerful, ever powerful, he convinced state lawmakers to give him control back of the schools. So now the state is saying, no, give it back to us. But I'm not even so sure the state wants control of CPS. I mean, that's the thing too, is do they really want it? I mean, the CPS has a different pension separate from the rest of the state, oversees the teachers' pensions for all school districts across the state, except for CPS. But so possibly consolidating the CPS teachers' pensions with the rest of the state may come up with some revenue. But that's still going to hit taxpayers, so I don't think they're going to want that either. Anyway, I don't pretend to be some sort of financial whiz that has the answers of how CPS is going to come up with $800 million. If I could come up with $800 million, I, no offense, wouldn't be talking to you right now. I wouldn't be working I'd just be chilling in Mykonos somewhere, or Greece. So, I don't know. But it is a big deal, and it is important as we are coming up to the start of school, and there is this question of what does this going to mean. And we always worry about this. Sadly, in recent years, what we've worried about at the start of school is, are there going to be teachers? Because there's been teacher strikes, and there's been all this acrimony between the administration and CTU. So it doesn't look like that's happening right now, but there are concerns. What is this going to mean if there are not, staff, aides, some of whom by law are required to be there to, work with special education students? What is this going to mean as kids return?
You're going to want to bring your tissues for this fascinating theater pick. Come From Away is at Paramount Theater in Aurora. The show is based on a true story, y'all, of a small town in Newfoundland that took in nearly, get this, 7,000 stranded passengers from over 100 countries after planes were grounded because of the 9/11 attacks. 38 of those planes, international flights, landed in Gander, the town that welcomed the world. Nominated for 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and Best Original Score, the Chicago area premiere offers a simple message that kindness can and should reach across all borders. Experience the small town generosity. Come From Away runs August 20th through October 12th in downtown Aurora. Don't wait. Get your tickets today at ParamountAurora.com. All right, so I want to name a couple qualities. I want you to think if they apply to you, and just maybe I might got your next career move. Ready? I bet. Do you have a passion for people? You're excited to help others and you got great customer service skills. Do you crave flexibility, right? You want to be in charge of your own schedule and chart your own course. Do you got that hustle in you, right? Are you ready to turn that drive into something meaningful? All right, if you answer yes, then hey, real estate might be your next big move. Realtors help people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives, buying or selling a home, and no 2 days are the same. It's a chance to grow a business, make an impact, and build the lifestyle you're working towards. Visit realtorsrealestateschool.com to set up a free career consultation. We are headed down to the far south side in Pullman, where the headline this week reads, "Investment in Pullman is driving economic growth in the neighborhood," which I first saw that and I was like, duh. You build it, they will come. Invest in people and good things will happen. Corley, a recent analysis looked into the economic and social impacts of the Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives, a development firm that has been working in the neighborhood since at least the 2010s. Corley, you've gone through the findings. Can you help break them down for us?
Our friends at Block Club Chicago have done amazing reporting on the investments on the far south side in Pullman.
Shout out to Lee John Greco.
Yeah, shout out to Lee. So the study showed that compared to their far south side counterparts, Pullman has outpaced them in unemployment rates decreasing, education increasing, showing really the impacts of the investments. The study also showed that the investment that Chicago Neighborhood Initiative, CNI, have been putting in Pullman had a $1.5 billion impact on the area, right? And I think that's so cool because I stay in West Pullman, and I get to enjoy like the fruits that have been going into the investment in Pullman, like the Culvers over there, right? And they recently built a Chick-fil-A. Unfortunately, the line was so long that I had to leave. I couldn't even wait in the line. I was like, I want to enjoy this, but I just can't.
So Lexington Betty moved from a food stall to their own spot over there.
Exactly, right. I visited them, and then like just like the small things that Pullman is known for, like the taste of Pullman. I've gone 2 years in a row, and being able to see these investments is like it's just like totally amazing, right? And I just want to shout out what CNI has done. They have also recently bought a home that was owned by CHA, so Chicago Housing Authority, and Block Club did an investigative piece about how hundreds of homes that CHA had owned has sat dilapidated and vacant. And so this particular house on 105th and Corliss has sat vacant for 20 years. And CNI recently bought the property for $15,000, and it's part of that effort to revitalize the area. And CNI has been doing this work for over a decade. So it's exciting to see what really can be a part of showing what investment looks like you said, in the far south side, and how it just like the proof is in the pudding, right? So this investment leads to so many negative outcomes when investment leads to the opposite. So it's really cool to see. I did talk to David Doig at CNI for another project that they're doing on 115th in Michigan to kind of revitalize that area in the Roseland area. So that one will be a mixed use project, and it kind of coincides with the red line extension. And I think that is super important to look at that area as well, Jacoby, because you have like staples, like old-fashioned donuts, right? What we all love. But when you look at that area, you see how many of the properties are just vacant, and there's no investment. So we know that investment leads to more investment. So it's exciting. I'm excited to see if that project gets off the ground and what can happen for that.
In addition to the development we've seen happen in Pullman over the last decade, I mean, Chicago State, which doesn't sit in Pullman proper, but is like right across the tracks on 95th Street, they announced in recent weeks plans to develop about a half a mile of student housing and retail stores along 95th Street, right on the edge of like Pullman and Rosemore. Corley, as someone who graduated from Chicago State, again, what does it mean to you to see not only the neighborhood university, but the community all reaping these massive investments in recent years?
This is super exciting because when I went to CSU, it was like a huge desert of things, and it's like compared to University of Chicago, I was just like, how come this area can't look like that? with Chicago State being that kind of anchor development. So I really hope that this really comes to fruition. I'm excited to see what happens. Seeing more food options, healthy food options in the area for the students would be really exciting to see, especially with the new football stadium as well. So I'm excited for what's happening for CSU.
To think that a decade ago there were concerns that the school might close down,
Right.
Losing enrollment, losing teachers. Now you've seen the investment in the 95th Street Red Line, the Red Line Extension Project. You see, like you said, investment in a D1 football program that already has a coach. Long way to go. But is moving there, wants to build more student housing for a university that's been pretty much a commuter college for most of its existence. Again, it's a really bright spot in the city to see such intentional investment in the far South Side, especially given most of the population loss when we think about over the last couple of decades is coming from a lot of these South and far South Side neighborhoods. And only way to keep people is give them an adequate neighborhood to live in that has access to good groceries, great educational opportunities, jobs.
We'll talk about economic development. I mean, college students, putting a bunch of students there, like Corley's saying, like places to eat, places to shop, places to live. It like
things besides just go to class and have to leave.
Exactly. Columbia, there's a ton of urban colleges, city colleges, not separate from the city colleges, but, universities, DePaul, Loyola, Columbia College. Kids live on campus there.
They really benefit from living in thriving, fully resourced neighborhoods.
100%. Loyola is its own neighborhood up in Rogers Park. I mean, there's tons of stuff there that, that feed off the university and feed the university. So it's like, there's no reason CSU couldn't be the same way.
From the far South Side to the far North Side, Weiss Memorial Hospital has been serving Uptown and surrounding neighborhoods since the 50s, and now the entire hospital community is waiting anxiously to learn what will be the fate of their hospital. Parents, nurses, staff are all confused and concerned about what's next. Carrie, how did we get here?
Yeah, so this is great reporting by the Sun-Times, and WBEZ has been following this story. And, the closure could be imminent. And I have to admit, I'm choosing this as sort of my maybe it's not underreported. It may be a little bit less on the radar, I would say, at least for me. But I have to admit that I read this, I thought, oh my gosh, this hospital could close in the next day or two. And this has been going on for a few weeks. This hospital, it's a safety net hospital, as you note, in Uptown, which is, speaking of diversity, is traditionally been a very racially, economically diverse area. There's a lot of social services providers there. So, I think something like nearly 85% of the patients at Weiss are on Medicare or Medicaid. And basically what the reporting from the Sun-Times and BZ says is that, they haven't been in compliance with federal regulators for quite some time, not having enough nurses per shift, quote unquote. They've reported inappropriate delays in treatment. Of course, Weiss has denied this, but the paper talked to an emergency room nurse who said, that she's been telling patients they're going to close soon because, she said, I have to basically be honest with my patients and my colleagues that this is not a good picture, and that they were informed that they would lose Medicare access this Saturday, so tomorrow. That's a huge hospital that always, when a safety net closes, we've seen this before with Mercy Hospital. We saw this during the pandemic. The biggest question becomes, just like a lot of things in the city, we have food deserts, we have pharmacy deserts, you have healthcare deserts, you have mental health care deserts. But in this case, you have healthcare deserts of where are these people going to go? Okay, St. Joe's is on Diversey. That's 2 miles south. That's not always easy for people to get to. They can go to Swedish. That's a few miles west for them, down Foster. So it's like, but the question becomes, what often happens and what we're going to see, what I've sort of covered when I've been talking about, all the Medicaid access that's going to be lost with the Trump administration's big push of the bill, I'm not going to call it what they call it, this massive spending bill, and how many people are going to lose Medicaid access, is that when people aren't able to pay for their care, they just won't go. They just won't go to the doctor. They just won't go to the hospital. And that's deadly. That can be life and death. And people really, even if you have private insurance, like I do, like I hope you guys do, you don't trust you don't trust the healthcare system because you are so busy fighting all the time for like what you pay for. We pay each month into our healthcare, into our insurance, and you're still constantly like, wait, why am I getting this bill? What am I paying for? Why aren't you covering this? Like, and so if you, that's with private healthcare. So like if you don't know how you're going to pay the bill and you are afraid you're going to be harassed on how you're going to pay for it, obviously safety net hospitals have to take people, emergency rooms too, but like you're just not going to go. This is a bad situation there. And it's going to, they were at one point, they had sort of a makeshift emergency room. They didn't have air conditioning, and it is. And that's inhumane to people who need care.
Where the patients would go, would they have to go to another safety net hospital or?
I think so. I think that is where sort of St. Joe's would come in, is that St. Joe says they would accept them, and I think Swedish as well, which is, but I think that they would, and then you get into that and it's like, do those hospitals have enough staff and nurses to, care for even more patients? Emergency rooms already, you wait hours and hours. So what's going to happen if you have even more patients that need care?
Before we move into our good news, we are coming off of 4 days of Lollapalooza taking over Grant Park. Corley, I know the tribe was out there all weekend long. The pictures and coverage was so damn good. Once tribe correspondent Rome J closed out the weekend, what was his overall thoughts on this year's festival?
So shout out to Rome for breaking down the Black experience at Lala. I thought he did a great job with his story. It was something that I never thought about. I only went to Lala one time, and I went just to see Jasmine Sullivan a couple years ago. That was it. I saw her, I got out of there. I was not a big fan of the crowd, and I think that what Rome's piece gets at is like this uncomfortability that we have as Black people, when we have our songs put on a spotlight like that, and you in mixed company, and we use the N-word as part of our culture, right? But when people do that aren't Black people, and it's just like it makes for an uncomfortable experience, and I'm glad that he broke that down. He talked to singer Duran Bernard, who decided not to perform one of his most famous songs, Mango Butter, because of the use of the N-word in the hook, right? But then you have a rapper like Bossman D-Lo who said he was just going to bring that energy every time, not kind of changing up the lyrics for the crowd. And I think that most artists have that same outlook for doing that. I don't think that we should have to change up our experience and our lived experience for other people thing. And I think that he did a great job with kind of breaking that down. He also gave an outlook of how T-Pain performed, and how he did his biggest hits at the beginning and then did covers towards the end of his set, and people left. So we want more Black performers at Lala, but then you want them to do well as well. Dope should have been a headliner. Chance came out and did his thing. So shout out to Rome for that amazing piece.
Every episode of CityCast Chicago ends the exact same way, and that is with some good news. It has been, 7 months since the Bears last took the field. And Corley, we are back at that time of the year. For the last 3 years, you have joined us around August or September to talk all things Bears, all things offseason. So first, let me get your temperature. How you feeling about the Bears offseason moves?
Why you want to do this to me, Jacoby? I'm feeling great. Come on now. Stop playing with me. We about to... He's about to be going in. And then it's just like, oh my God. So the O-line itself, I just feel so happy for Caleb Williams to have that protection. We got some veterans on the O-line. We got a new tight end in Colston Loveland. And I got to give a shout out to a story that I wrote on draft day. I got to go to Soldier Field and walk on the field. It was so beautiful. And I talked to Black Bears fans about what the Bears mean to them. And I just learned so much, because this isn't just me. The Bears symbolize resilience and the community that we have within ourselves as Black Bears fans. It's just like comforting, especially because we go through those ups and downs. So I really enjoyed doing that story. And I think that it was just like a preview of what we have to look forward to this season, starting against the Dolphins in this preseason on Sunday. So, I'm hopeful, Jacoby.
I love your energy. To recap some of the moves you talked about, we brought in new offensive linemen in Joe Tunney, Jonah Jackson. We got center Drew Dahlman. We drafted a couple. You mentioned the new tight end. I'm also excited for Luther, especially since we lost Keenan Allen earlier this week. Obviously, we also hired a new head coach in Ben Johnson,
Let's
who's been
go.
the offensive coordinator for the Lions the last couple of years. I'm going to remind you of your predictions the last 3 years, Corley. 2022, you said 10-7. 2023,
I
you
think
said at
I
least...
remember that one.
Yeah.
I was around for that one.
You was around for that one. 2023, you said at least 8 games, but also ended at 10-7. And then last year, you didn't predict the record, but you did say playoffs. Corley, you are 0 for 3, my nigga. But I want you to... I bring you in because you are bold every single year in your predictions, and I got to keep the tradition going. Corley, what will be the Bears' record at the end of the year, and are they a playoff team?
Okay, of course we're a playoff team, right? But we get there, we get to the playoffs on a wild card. Okay, we get that. I say that we win in 7 games.
12, 14, and 11. Those were the wild card records. And you think we're going to get in with 7?
You're right.
Yeah, we got either we're going to get 7 and no playoffs, or we got to win 10 or 11. And our schedule is arguably the toughest in football. I'm going to say, I'm going to go 10 because I think we beat the 49ers. If we in it to win it at that point, if we like in a playoff like contention, I think we rally and beat the 49ers.
Okay.
I want to say 9, but I'm saying I could be whimsical and go to 10.
Okay, so are you saying that we don't make the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm saying 9 and we don't make the playoffs.
God. Okay.
9 and 8 don't make the playoffs.
I'm gonna keep my 7.
Okay. You gonna go 7 and 10, and we both saying we gonna miss the playoffs?
Yeah.
Damn. It'd be like that though. Not that big of a shock. It's a very tough schedule this year, but hey, come back every Tuesday to find out how I am coping with yet another Bears result. I know we spent a lot of time talking Bears, but we got some more sports good news. Over to you, Carrie. What's your good news for us today?
Yes, I went this week to see the play at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater, Billie Jean, which is about, of course, Billie Jean King, the legendary tennis player and leader in equal pay for female athletes. And she was in the audience.
I was certain that was a Michael Jackson.
Yeah, most people were, including my husband. And he was like, cool. And I was like, no, it's about Billie Jean King. And she was in the audience, which was awesome and kind of weird. I would think it would be really odd to watch your life story on stage and all the and it was a lot about how, she had to be closeted. She's as a lesbian, and many people tried to out her, and her relationship with her former husband, and, et cetera. It was very well done. But the other good news that is right up your alley, Jacoby, and I actually texted you last night, where do I get some roller skates? Because I'm going roller skating this afternoon. I'm doing a story about a guy who teaches roller skating lessons, and he will sort of skate up and down the lakefront path, and he has a big QR code on his sweatshirt that's like, here, I'll teach you how to roller skate. So I'm meeting up with him this afternoon on the lake, and obviously I gotta take some lessons, so I gotta go get some roller skates before then. So look out for that.
I was asking if you skate at all, roller skate at all.
No, I mean, I did when I was a kid, obviously we used to roller skate, but I haven't roller skated in years. I have as an adult, just not in a long time, but I'm thinking I'll be good at it, and I love it, and that I'll love it, and soon you'll see me roller skating on the lakefront, and People will be like, is that Carrie? Is that Carrie? What's she doing? Is she twirling around? So look out for that story in Axios Chicago. So I'm excited. I mean, I'm not going to be as good as you, Jacoby, or your mom, but I mean, maybe I'll learn a few tricks, right?
I'm rusty as hell. I need to get back out there. I want to round out our good news with 2 events I want people to check out. The first one is regarding Dorian Sylvain. Carrie, you actually, when we first started this podcast, like taught me about Dorian's art and really put me on. I know we did an episode with her, but she's a local muralist, educator, and cultural organizer, and is opening her first solo exhibition in 20 years.
That's amazing. I didn't know about that. That's great.
Yes, at Blanc Gallery in Bronzeville, and it opens this weekend. It's titled Raised in It. I'm really excited for this. Dorian's story is so beautiful. The conversation we had with her all those years ago was fantastic. I went and saw her and her sons, her 3 boys. They did a family exhibit a couple of years ago, which I got to see. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for Dorian. Her work can be seen all over the city. She's been a part of Chicago's art scene, mural movement for the better part of 4 decades. And then also this weekend, the Chicago Palestine Film Festival is hosting a special screening on Sunday for Art Under Occupation. These are 2 events that I think people should make time on their calendar if they can, or share with your friends and family. I will drop links for you in the show notes. As always, I appreciate y'all for listening and reading. Join me in giving a huge thank you to our guest today from the tribe, Corley J, joining us for your lucky number 13th time. We appreciate you making time every time.
Hey, thank you so much, Jacoby.
And Axios reporter and former team member, Carrie Shepard. Always good to see you, my friend.
You too. So good to see both of you, all of you. Thank you for having me.
Our executive producer is Simone Ali-Sayer. Producer extraordinaire is Michelle Navarro. Our Hey Chicago newsletter editor is the one and only Emmy Mack. Our social media manager is the homie Rick Homuth. And our roving producer this week is Selena C. Reynolds. The music we all love is from my boy Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast or the newsletter, or the podcast and the newsletter, then continue to share us with your people. Share us with the people you meet in and around the city, the folks you see on the train sitting next to you. Whoever will listen, go ahead and plug the podcast and the newsletter. We do not gatekeep. At least those things. I keep a lot of things to the chest, close to the vest that I don't share with y'all. Those are not 2 of them. We're going to be back bright and early on Monday. We will talk to you then. In the meantime, in between time, head over to chicago.citycast.fm and explore all of the amazing content we have for you. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.